Welcome to the Fighting on Film podcast, the podcast all about classic and obscure war movies, from the Normandy landings to the days of chivalry and swords. If it's been captured on film, we're going to try and cover it. I'm Robbie of RM Military History.
I'm Matthew Moss of Historical Firearms and the Armourer's Bench.
Hello, welcome back to Fighting on Film. Now this week we look back at a lesser known French film from perhaps one of the genre's most underrated directors. It's Pierre Schoendoerffer's 1965 film, The 317 Platoon. And just before we begin, this week we're going to try something a little bit different. We're going to put the large question at the end of the episode. Let us know in the socials, let us know in comments and things if you prefer it moving. And yeah, we can switch it round. So, Matt, I'm on production this week. So, if you would start with cast, that'd be lovely.
Absolutely. So, tight cast, 6 or 7,
very.
Not many. It's mostly focused around a platoon of French and section, French and Laotian irregulars, superlatives. I've seen them described as like auxiliaries.
I thought like local forces.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
So first off, we've got Jacques Perrin, who plays Second Lieutenant Terence, and he had leading roles in 4 of Schoendoerffer's films, including Section 317 or 317 Platoon, Le Crabe Tambour in 1977, A Captain's Honor in 1982, and then also he had appearances in a number of other films, including Shock Troops in 1967, Special Section in 1975, The Desert of the Tartars in 1976, which is a Legionnaire film, Operation Leopard 1978, which is that French Foreign Legion paratroop. Katanganese.
That's been up on the Patreon pick, isn't it? A couple of times.
Yeah, we've had it a couple of times. I mean, it's been close. Yeah. We've wanted to do it for a while, so maybe we'll catch
that French fighting in villages we've just seen. That'll be up on there soon.
God, if they live in villages, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Check it out on the socials if you didn't see. It's like a French fighting amphibia training film, but it's like it's been made by John Carpenter. It's amazing, folks. It's just amazing.
Is blue-faced aliens with ping-pong ball eyes.
It's amazing.
And they're all just in white boiler suits.
Yes.
It's amazing.
It plays like an advert for the FAMAS as well. It's fantastic.
It does. Oh my God, I've never wanted a FAMAS so much after watching that. Incredible. Rounding out Perrin's credits, Race for the Bomb, which is a French miniseries all about the development of the atomic bomb. And that aired in 1987. And then I think the second strongest character in this is Wilsdorf, who's played by Bruno Kremer, and he appeared in Paris is Burning 1966, Schoendoerffer's Objective 500 Millions 1966 as well, Le Crabe Tambour in 1977, Shock Troops 1966, and also Operation Leopard 1978. So a lot of similarity in trajectory.
He's superb, by the way. I think all the cast are superb in this.
Pitch perfect, yeah. Pitch perfect. Pierre Fabre as Sergeant Rudier. He also appeared in A Captain's Honor. Later worked as a writer and a producer. Manuel Zarzo as the radio operator, a prolific actor, over 240 credits.
Blimey.
He appeared in The Faithful Infantry 1960, which is a Spanish Civil War film, which having read the bio on IMDb, I'm very eager to find. It sounds great. Le Cheval de Maupin, 1965. Suicide Commandos, 1968. Suicide Mission, 1970.
Aren't these like all Aldo Ray, like Euro war films?
Yeah. I know, yeah. The last remake of Beau Geste.
Wow.
1977. The Disasters of War miniseries in 1983. And then finally we have Bourame Toilong, who plays Sergeant Superlatif Bakut, who is the leader of the auxiliary force, which he's actually rather good. He's like the
Yeah.
MVP, isn't he?
Yeah. They call
He's
him
on it all the
Coot
time.
in the subs version we watched,
They
didn't they,
do,
as
yeah,
well? Yeah, it sounds
yeah.
like Coot. Yeah, he's brilliant. They're all really good, you know. They're very authentic people.
Mm.
Um, you really feel this movie is one of its strengths. You really feel like you're halfway into something. Like they don't do the traditional setting up of characters. You're just
Oh
with
yeah, they
them.
throw you straight in. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
But
mm.
you get character development through the film, and I like that, and we'll
Yeah.
talk about that, I'm sure. But that
Mm,
rounds out cast. It's a very
yeah.
tight cast and a very
Very.
good cast, I think.
Mm, mm. So moving into production. So as Matt mentioned, I mentioned at the top of the show, is directed by combat cameraman turned filmmaker and novelist Pierre Schoendoerffer. He was dropped into Dien Bien Phu and actually shot footage of the battle. He was later captured, and before they were captured, they broke a lot of their equipment and tore up and tore up their film reels. And I think some
Shame.
of his footage exists as he was able to smuggle some of it out. I think it exists somewhere. And then after that, he was in a Viet Minh prisoner of war camp. So 317 Platoon is based on his experiences in Indochina, and it's based on a book he wrote in 1963 of the same name. His other notable war works include Le Crabe Tambor, as Matt mentioned, A Captain's Honor, 1982, and for me, his seminal work, 1992's Dien Bien Phu. I think
Mm.
it may be the West's best non-English war film, like non-English language war film,
Yeah, yeah, I'd
personally.
agree with that. Well, second to this, perhaps. Maybe
Perhaps, yeah.
we'll talk about that. I think this is a really nice supporting piece to that. I think they
Yeah, I've got
complement
that
each
in
other
my
really
final
well.
thoughts. It's almost like a pseudo prequel or sequel
Mm.
or running alongside. You don't often get movies that are running alongside each other
Mm.
in this genre. So I really appreciate that. So Pierre also directed a number of documentaries, most relevant to this one being his 1967 documentary, The Anderson Platoon, um, which follows a platoon of the 1st Cavalry Division in 1965 as they sort of enter country. So it's a
Wow.
little bit like 317 Platoon, where is following a platoon. Anderson Platoon won Best Documentary Feature at the 1968 Oscars, and it also won Best Documentary at the Emmys the same year, including a lot of other awards. And he also Pierre wrote 1969's Farewell to the King, that was later made into a film by John Milius in 1989.
Oh,
Yeah, that's an
another
interesting one.
Milius
We'll
link.
we'll have to do that one soon because Farewell to the King is one of those movies where the studio like botched the edit.
Right.
Apparently, Milius has been bitter for years that the edit they put out isn't what he made.
Wow.
Apparently, his is a lot more pro war, and their edit went a bit more anti war. I heard.
Mm.
I think
He
tangentially.
does love a bit of war, does John?
He done a little bit of war, does on Milius. Yeah, so it's this is one of Pierre's, I think it's his third feature. Um, so the cinematography was by Raoul Coulthard, who spent over a decade in the Indochina and Vietnam as a war photographer, as well as Schoendoerffer. He's a BAFTA nominee, and he's often cited as one of the faces of the French New Wave movement, especially in relation to his work with Jean-Luc Godard. He directed a Vietnam War movie, which isn't directly about the war, but it's about Vietnamese children and how they sort of see it in 1970s Hoa Binh. He also provided cinematography work to Bethune, The Making of a Hero, which had Donald Sutherland in it. And the movie he won a BAFTA for, The Sailor from Gibraltar. And he spoke about filming 317 Platoon in a 2004 interview, and I've got a quote for you here. He says, "We were somewhere where we could only communicate via the radio of the soldiers who were accompanying us. We weren't near an airport, no airfield, meaning that a runway where a Dakota could land, so that a runway was 50 kilometers away. And it took us a day to get there because the road was so bad you had to drive very, very slowly. Once in a while, we had to attach winches to cars to get out of ditches. It was awful. And then there was just a big forest. And in addition, we had prepared ourselves to shoot this film. There was also a lot of rain. Um, just like hellish conditions for them.
Yeah.
Apparently, everyone was like lugging cameras up mountainsides and things like that to get it made. And then he
Yeah.
also mentions at the end that because obviously it's 1964, 65 when they shot it. So you've got American spotting planes flying into Cambodia, not realizing they've flown into Cambodia, and you've got local Cambodian forces firing on them when they're coming in. to the airspace. So they've got all that going on. And apparently they made some sort of post or like a little like camp village for the shoot. And then
Mm.
apparently afterwards, American spotting planes found it and then they destroyed it. And I couldn't infer from the translation whether they sent troops over into Cambodia to destroy this little village or they bombed it. But
Well, that would have been illegal.
such a weird, yeah, well, Cambodia and Vietnam. um so yeah, just an absolutely incredible shoot in Cambodia for Schoendoerffer and his team. It was shot for
But it's
around
worth it
six.
because it looks authentic, because it
Oh yeah,
is the same
massively.
environment. It just
Yeah,
works perfectly.
it's perfect. Yeah. Um, shot for around $66,000, which is absolute pittance, even for 1965. It's nothing. And it grossed over 1.6 million at the French box office, so it was a big financial success. Was nominated for a lot of awards. Was released on the 31st of March 1965 in France, 1966 in the UK, and not until 2018 with its DVD release did it get a US release, apparently.
Wow.
So it's been a long, long time coming. I think it's had a bit of a resurgence in the last few years with the DVD release. As I mentioned, you can get it on DVD and Blu-ray. It's a little bit hard to find, but you can find it.
Mm.
DVDs range from about 20 to 30 quid, but it's worth it, folks, this one. One for the eclectic viewer. So that's pretty much production. There's so little written about this movie. But it has been a very influential film. So the retro review this week, it's the best that I could find because I don't have access to French newspaper archives. It comes from a 2018 Guardian article by the historian Anthony Beaver.
Oh,
It's the first
okay.
time he's been mentioned on the show. It
Oh, he's
might
a
only
fan of
be,
this, isn't he? He's a
it
big fan.
might, yes, exactly.
Yeah, I remember
The
that
show, or the show, or the film. Um, so Anthony wrote, he said, in
now.
my view, the
Lovely.
greatest war movie ever made is the 317 Platoon, a French film from 1965 set during the country's first Indochina War. This was the original Platoon movie, whose format later directors followed but failed to match in its portrayal of characters and their interaction, to say nothing of the moral choices and the corruption of combat.
I don't think this is the first platoon-based movie at
It's
all.
not. It's
It's really
definitely
not.
not. No.
But yes, I know what he's getting at. But yeah, it's definitely not the first time this kind of formula has been used, because it's the standard formula for the 40s, 50s,
Yeah,
and before, isn't it? Really?
there's plenty of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, not a bad
No,
review. I'm sure there's plenty of French ones.
there is. I
Um,
just couldn't track them down. It was
Could you
very,
not have
very
typed in
difficult.
the review?
I tried. No, I tried. I got to like page 5 of Google, and Google had given up by that point. So that there we go. Yeah. So on to the one word reviews this week. We had a few. Thanks, folks. I put Magnifique. It counts as a one word review, even if I do it
Hmm.
myself. Brian Williams says Enfield. Jeff Powers says underrated. Paul Harper goes with Matt 49. It's a submachine gun for anyone out there. Dave Bowen put never heard of it with the the Dirty Dozen meme, which I thought was quite funny. Book Calm put quintessential. Johnny C said in country. Philippe Amaral masterpiece. There we go for the one word reviews this week. Pretty eclectic. I think those that have seen it know.
Yeah,
And I think it's one of those movies where, because it's had such a late DVD release,
more people need to see it.
yes, it isn't really on streaming, so it's going to hurt it a little bit. But this movie
Get
is,
it on Netflix or Amazon right now.
yeah, come
Get it
on.
up on there. Imagine if Netflix did one of their awful
Oh
English
no.
dubs.
Oh no. No. God, no. I want the subtitles on the version that I've had where they don't
It's like,
subtitle every
bring the
line.
fridge,
Yeah.
bring the fridge. I'm sorry, the Pernod has no ice. Like something like that.
There'll be no looting here. Like really bad American acting voice dub. Yeah. I really hope this gets a streaming release at some point. It would really help it. Anyway, on to this week's Alley Tally.
This is 5 to Alpha. Contact now. Agreed. 852-676. Approximately 4 tanks and 10 APCs moving directly towards the wood. I'm observing, over.
Hello, Sunray. Fighting on Film has partnered up with warfaremedia.net to give our listeners exclusive discounts on a range of high-resolution Cold War adverts, propaganda, and recruitment posters. From blowpipes to nuclear threats to weapon schematics, Warfare Media has you covered. Visit warfaremedia.net today and use the code FOF20 at checkout for 20% off high-quality Cold War posters. I repeat, FOF20 at checkout. Over.
Roger, out to you and take action now. Send us SITREP as soon as possible. Over.
It's time for Alley Tally on Fighting on Film.
Oh, we've got a lot to talk about.
Oh, it's going to be a good alley tally. Can I go first?
Yeah, go for it.
So this week, there's so many French weapons in this that we rarely ever get to talk about. So I'm going to highlight the American-made Browning automatic rifle. Because we've not seen it in months on the show.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
We've not had it for ages. The FM, exactly. So, Wilsdorfer, he uses it quite a lot. He just essentially uses it like it's a rifle, like it's a.
Yeah, he lets an auxiliary carry it, and then he takes it off him when he wants to hip fire it. I love it.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So I was talking to Matt this morning, and I thought, you know what, this actually be quite interesting for the show. So in the film, he refers to it as an FM. And I was like, why is he calling it FM? It's a BAR. Like, come on, everyone knows it's a BAR. So then I asked Matt why, and he will explain to us all now why they're referring to it as the FM.
Fusil mitrailleur, which means automatic rifle in French. So the doctrine of it is that's the light machine gun
weapon,
and has been since the Chauchat. So yeah, it's the FM. So when he shouts for the FM, he's basically shouting. He
brings up the FM.
Get the LMG,
yeah.
Up, that kind of thing.
No, it's really great. It's we're in
it's a
that
nice little detail that you wouldn't know, but it doesn't. No. It's not important, but it's kind of cool.
We're in that post-war period where France is finally kind of sorting itself out firearms-wise and kit-wise after the Second World War. So there's
what a mishmash they have even in this. It's wild.
Huge mishmash still in the Indochina War. If you look up kit and equipment from that era, you'll find things from eclectic as like Lend-Lease American stuff that they're using really early on, to introducing their own jungle fatigue patterns, but then still using like American jump uniforms and British Denisons and British windproofs. Like there's so much going on in terms of the French and Indochina. This movie kind of...
Rob, they had Piats during the first Indochina War.
Yes, they did. Not in this film, unfortunately.
No, if only. Oh my God, that would have been amazing.
We're quite late for Piats though, 54 Indochina. Quite late when this movie's set. But there's a lot going on here. But no, I thought, seeing the BAR being used with aplomb in this was something else. And there's something about the sound effects of this. Every gun has its distinct crack. I know there's some stock sounds in there, but they've really taken their time. You get the pop of an M1 carbine, you get the thud of a BAR, you get the crack of a P17 rifle being carried by the indigenous troops. It's such a great soundscape, and there's very minimal actual non-diegetic sound that everything is kind of heightened in this. I really liked it. What about you for Alley Tally?
Oh God, I really like the Mass 49, and especially the one that was scoped, the Marksman.
Oh yeah, the carbine type rifle. Yeah.
No, the full length one. Not compared to the P9 1917, the M1917. But yeah, the one with the scope.
Yeah, it's got like a double barrel thing going on.
Yes, that's the bayonet.
You know what I mean?
It's like it's a cruciform bayonet that you take out and you turn back.
Trying to help the audio people out there. Yeah. Unless people are furiously Googling while they listen to the show.
Oh, you should be. Oh, yeah. Go look at weird
we
French
should put out a
weapons.
cheat sheet for the Alley Tally every week, I feel.
That's a nice idea. I like that, actually.
Well, there you go. So, you volunteered to make it then. You heard it here, folks.
So, as if I'm not busy enough. So I will. I'll try for this week, promise. So, yeah, I will. I'll try. So for French weapons, you've got the Mass 36, which is the bolt action rifle, and then you've got the Mass 49, which is the semi-automatic rifle. But look very similar, obviously different action. And then you've got the very cool Mat 49s.
Submachine gun, very cool.
With the folding magazine well, which looks really unusual.
It does look odd.
The French in the latter half of the 40s were looking for an airborne weapon, which is very compact. So you get all these wild designs, like the Hotchkiss Universal as well, which kind of like it telescopes, it folds, it does all sorts.
Wow.
That went up against the Mat 49, and the Mat 49 was just a bit cheaper to make, which is wild because when you think they had so many Stens in stock, so many, but they were adamant they wanted their own machine gun. So
the Model 5 Sten not good enough for you, for us.
Not good enough for them. Not
we're
good
still
enough.
using it into the 60s.
So they developed this really unusual looking submachine gun that has a grease gun stock and a folding magazine well. And it's very unusual. And I love the fact that
it's like a boxy grease gun, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got like a very square receiver, and it's just a very ugly kind of cool.
Yeah, but it's
gun,
cool. I got a love for it. I got a thing for it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like that would later turn up in the hands of the Viet Cong, who had captured them. Then they make their own in a different caliber.
Yeah.
So a lot of love for the Mat 49 out there. A lot of love.
Yeah, it's just one of those unusual early post-war submachine guns. You get a whole glut, like the Swedish K and God knows numerous others. But
yeah,
go on.
No, it's nice to see. Obviously, conflicts that we don't cover very often, like the French Indochina War. But it's also nice to see. You're filming it during a period where these weapons were being used by the Viet Cong.
Oh God, yeah. So the Mat 49, the Mat 49, and the Mat 36 stay in service until the early 60s, and the Mat 49 and the Mat 49 continue on until the FAMAS replaces both of them. So that they're in service for years. So it's really cool to see them being used.
The Viet Minh turning into the Viet Cong as well. There's a connection there with this movie, and obviously this filmed in '65, so you've got a war that's just emerging for the Americans, or has been going on, but is now building and getting bigger with the Marines being sent in after Gulf of Tonkin. Like there's so much going on behind this movie as well.
Contextually,
why it's so interesting. And I also love the belt kit on show. It's so nice. M1 carbine pouches. Canteens hanging off. Oh,
the kit does look really good.
Really good.
It works really effectively. I think the cap, obviously with him being a veteran and having fought in the theatre, he knows how kit should be set up. So he's probably just.
And there's a less is more with this as well, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree there. I like the nuance of the bit where the platoon marches off and he makes them drop unnecessary stuff.
That's cool.
That's a really nice inclusion.
They won't get 2 kilometers with this on their backs.
No, exactly. But they'll carry a fucking fridge.
yeah, exactly.
Carry on that layer.
Full of our Pernod and our
Pernod. Yeah.
Or as I say, Pernod, because I'm a Brit.
Last shout out for the alley tally for me is the lieutenant, and when he puts his driving gloves on.
That's cool.
The alley.
Yeah, really alley. Those leather gloves.
Puts them on before he knows he's going to get into the thick of it. Yeah.
They add a lot to his character, don't they?
They do, don't they?
Get a feeling he might have been like a public school type before he came in. Something.
I love how they develop the two characters. I think it works really well, and it's different to what you would imagine. That there isn't that friction between non-commissioned officer and an officer. Wilsdorf kind of just goes along with what he's told to do.
They have a camaraderie. They have a understanding.
But he offers support and
he gets he's in command, but he gets he's been in longer. So there's this really nice synergy there. And I do feel like there is a mutual respect, and there is a mutual respect in the movie. But there's also like this sort of underlining, well, who is this man that I'm serving with? Because he was in the Wehrmacht, but he's French. He's from the Alsace.
Yeah.
So there's so much going on there, and Schoendoerffer himself is from is heritage in the Alsace region. So there's maybe a little bit of self-inserting there. But obviously Schoendoerffer wasn't in the Wehrmacht, didn't fight on the Eastern Front. But there's a lot going on here, just bubbling under the surface, and the movie doesn't force it into your face like some movies would. And also shout out Ali this week, filming it on black and white film stock, just gives this movie a richness that you would have
Oh yeah, it
lost.
makes it timeless as well.
Because
It has that
Anderson
timeless
Platoon,
quality to it.
it does. Anderson Platoon is also filmed in black and white. And I wonder if that's from Schoendoerffer's Indochina days, where it's just what he's used to, perhaps.
It might be that it's just an easier film to work within those kind of conditions as well, because it's
Possibly.
hardier.
Yeah.
And it's
It
cheaper.
adds a real depth
as
to this
well.
movie, though. I think there's something about this film. It just adds such a lovely depth to it. But yeah, I think that's a good alley tally this week. A lot in there.
Very good. Very good. The only thing that could have made it better is if he, like, someone had pulled out a French pistol. That would have been cool.
That'd have been nice. That'd have been nice. Yeah. And maybe just to see a little bit of the Viet Minh and what they were carrying. That'd have been nice to see.
Rather than from a distance or through a scope.
Yeah. I think
God,
they
I
might
love
have
those
had
scope
Enfields,
shots.
things like that.
I think so.
Yeah, those sight through the sight shots are very alley.
Some of the best I've ever seen.
Really well done.
Yeah,
And
we'll talk about that.
even with the scope, like there's inaccurate fire as well. Like it's there's an authenticity to this movie that not many movies of that era nail, I think. And this gets it. Or it's definitely up there. So I think we're into favourite scenes.
Hello there, sorry to interrupt. I wanted to let you know that you can now join our supporting cast over on Patreon. As thanks for your support, you'll be able to help us pick films, submit questions for guests, have first pick on brand new and exclusive merch, and much more. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show. I think we're probably both going to pick the same scene here.
Oh, are we? Oh, not had that in a while.
I think I'm going to go for the river crossing ambush. Are we on the same wavelength?
The first ambush.
The first set piece. Yeah. It's so good. It's
so
really
strong.
Good. It's some of the best depiction of small unit tactics. You know, them lying in wait. There's real tension to it as well, but it's not overstated. And I really appreciate that. And it's brilliantly composed and shot. And there's that really perfect level of tension that's they got a guy that's just like lying there waiting next to his BAR, which is set up for like sustain fire, and then it all kicks off. And it's what I really like is the way that the officer and NCOs control what's going on and the communication, and that's something the film does really well in other set pieces later on where they're doing that fighting withdrawal, and you can see like Wilsdorf's section across the valley, trying to lead with Coop trying to lead the Viet Minh away, and he's watching it through his field glasses, and it's another great, through the scope kind of shot.
There's levels. There's everything going on. Like from a filmmaking point of view, there's levels to this, but from a depicting a platoon in action, there's levels as well.
Yeah,
everything's really
gives that
thought
scale.
out.
It gives that scale of the action. But at the same time, you can see what's going on over there, but you've just got enough disconnect from it to not really know what's going on.
Yep,
and
100%.
That adds it a real level of realism that I think it really adds something.
No, I'm with you. And we don't often see in films like this when it's a platoon. We don't see them split into sections. Fit into little fire plans, little fire squads, and go off and mutually support. Like, because in this movie, I'm not worrying about what Wilsdorf is doing because I know what he's doing. He's fighting the back line, so the rest of the lads can haul ass to the town they're trying to get to, and they catch up with them later. We don't have. If this was an American movie, you'd be like, "Oh my god, I don't know what's going on with my friends." Like, "Oh, how are they?" You'd have like some melodramatic rubbish go on. But this movie's just very straight. It plays it very straight. They are doing a job. They're fighting a rear guard so we can move up, and they'll come find us because we know where we're going. And I really like that. And as you were saying about everyone knows what they're doing, there isn't any baggage in the script here.
No.
You don't have loads of ancillary characters giving their 10 cents because they don't need to, because they've been ordered to do what they're doing. It's quite matter-of-fact dialogue. You only get really 3 or 4 people who talk the entire movie.
I really like the bit where they make it back up the hill from the ambush, and they realize there's a whole Viet Minh company coming through because it's on its way to Dien Bien Phu.
Yeah.
And
we should explain that while they're moving through, Bien Dien Phu is happening.
The film begins in an outlying kind of probably a valley or
Like a
two away
fire
from
base
Dien Bien Phu.
almost.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Rudier starts an ambush of his own. He's sort of like off, and you can see like firing in the distance and
Little
smoke and
cracker
stuff.
tracer.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
It's
Yeah.
again that depth. It's you don't know what's going on, but you know something's going on. And what happens
you
is
think they're safe where they are, but
you
they're not.
don't think they're going to be booking out like they do. You know that he sees that going on. He goes, "Oh, we're trying to withdraw quietly," and basically he's brought the Viet Minh down on him. So they bug out, and then they go, "Okay, well we know that they're moving through this valley. We'll interdict and we'll shoot them up on the river when they're crossing because it's a supply chain going to Dien Bien Phu because they know there's a big siege at Dien Bien Phu." And then we get this. It's a fighting withdrawal the whole film basically. They're trying to get to this other fire base, which is still in French control.
It's like a fortified town or something.
Yeah. And they they get whittled down as they go, don't they? But what I was going to say was,
it's essentially hopeless what they're doing.
It is, and they don't know that. That's the
great thing about the movie. Yeah.
But getting back to my point that I was going to make was, I like when they get to the top of that hill again, when they've fallen back to the fridge. Basically, what happens is Kut's
fridge
there,
too far.
the fridge too far indeed. And Wilsdorf says, "Good, you've dug trenches," like, because Kut's a professional. He's the real MVP. He's dug trenches. He always knows what the sergeant's going to ask him to do, or the lieutenant's going to ask him to do.
I like to think he became a crack Arvin Para about 3 years later.
Yeah,
yeah. One of the
fought his way out on the last chopper from Saigon.
Oh yeah, one of the lads that helped take back Hue. Just Group's there. Yeah.
So I like that nuance. There's no need for that to be in there, but it grows his character. And it shows that he is capable. So when he gets sent off to try and lead the Viet Minh away, you go, "Oh right, well I hope he makes it," because he seemed like he knew what he was doing.
He's a cool dude.
It's very clever the way the film kind of builds the characters, but doesn't really give you any information. Like, you don't know nothing about Kurt's character.
Yeah.
Other than
you get very little about their home life, very little about their sort of skin in the game, and that's kind of refreshing for a movie of this era, where we're getting kind of bogged down in, oh, my girl back home, that kind of thing's coming in like the mid-60s, or the genre's sort of devolving into adventure movies at this point. I don't think America's not really doing these kind of combat movies anymore. They're kind of their 50s thing. They're kind of coming out of this. So this movie is kind of, it feels like an older film, but it's a mid-60s film, and I think it's good. It works because of that. There's something about this that really works for me. And I
really love the bit where they fire the rifle grenades.
I know. I thought you were going to mention that in Alley Tally.
Well, I thought I'd save it for this.
It's really nice.
They're the Model 1948 rifle grenades, French rifle grenades.
Very nice. We love a rifle grenade section. Oh, beautiful.
Just such a good little depiction. Fires two of them, misses them the first one, and the lieutenant's like, "No, I'm getting this. I'm getting that machine gun.
I'm getting him.
And he might actually be Coot who does the shooting. I can't remember, but he gets someone to fire another one off, and they hit it, and you're like, "Oh,
really nice,
very good, well done."
Yeah, nice quick cut to a little smoke grenade going off. Just all you need. It's all you need. Really nice. I'm with you. That opening. Because that opening firefight, that opening contact sets up the entire movie pretty much. I think it's such a pivotal scene, and it's one of my favorite scenes because of the way it's filmed, and because of the way they show the Viet Minh. You're never fully shown how big it is, how many of them there are. But everyone watching this in
there's
France,
that one shot where like 20 guys come out of a tree line and they go, "Oh fuck." We should move. Yeah. And Wilsdorf and the lieutenant have that conversation like,
Torrens.
We should move. Yeah, Torrens, yeah.
We need to go. Yeah.
We need to go. We need to move. And they do that fight and withdrawal.
Because there's a part where Torrens
Wilsdorf firing the FM from the hip.
Yeah, we should stay. We could fight them, and Wilsdorf goes, No, we need to leave. Because he knows there's where there's 20, there might be 30. You know what I mean? Like it's this whole this is his second tour. So he knows. He's the old sweat. It's really, really good. And I think for an opener, it really wets your
Mm.
whistle for more. And then the movie kind of goes a bit slower, a little bit more. I wouldn't say it goes cerebral, but it slows down, but not in a snail's pace. It doesn't sag. There's
No,
a
it
lot going
doesn't.
on.
It becomes more of a story of fortitude and human,
Mm,
you know,
yeah.
what men can cope with, doesn't
Mm,
it? It does that kind of approach, and it's the character. Torrens makes the decision to take the wounded, which Wilsdorf doesn't agree with, but goes along with because
he
that's
has
the
to. That's
dynamic of the
his. Yeah.
relationship. And the the
He still
command structure.
respects he's his CO,
Yeah.
which I like.
Um, and there's momentary discord about who should try and lead the Viet Minh away.
Yeah.
Wilsdorf kind of just eventually just goes, okay, I'll do it.
Give me that
We'll do it.
BAR. I'll do
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. It's really
He's in
great.
his element when he has the BAR, though, isn't he? He's just,
Wouldn't you be though?
oh,
Wouldn't you?
just
20 rounds is a mag.
spraying jungle
Beautiful.
with the BAR. Amazing.
Lovely. Controlled bursts. We'll have to
There's
see
that
it.
great bit where he slams another magazine in, and you're like, oh,
Oh,
I've reload.
everyone's always reloading and checking their breach in this.
Mm.
It's lovely. And there's not too much of it either.
I really like the bit where he tells Kurt to destroy the rifles of the wounded.
Mm.
And just before it cuts away, you see him like just pull the bolt out of a Mass 36
Yeah,
and like throw
throw
it over
away.
his shoulder.
Yeah,
It's
it's
great.
great. Really nice. Yeah, no, I love it. It's great. There's so many great little moments in this movie. But I think we should move on to final thoughts. Like, I really like this movie.
Hmm.
And it's kind of twofold for me because, as I mentioned earlier, if you've seen 1992's Bien Dien Phu, which I can't recommend enough, it's superb film.
Great film.
It's a masterpiece in pacing. It's a masterpiece in futility. It's just a fantastically shot movie. But this movie is it's running alongside it. It's like a companion piece, but filmed nearly 30 years before.
Mm. Mm.
But then with that, it's saying so much about the larger geopolitical sphere in 1965. The US, as I mentioned, have just entered the conflict fully, but it's almost directly trying to show what will happen to the Americans in Nam. You're only going to get so far. The Viet Minh, who are now the Viet Cong, will win. They have bigger numbers. They care that they have more care. There's more drive. You won't be able to win this. It doesn't matter how advanced your army is. Doesn't matter how many men you've got. You're going to have to leave at some point. And this is what's happening in 317 Platoon. They're leaving an area. They're leaving. Bien Dien Phu's in the background. That's the final kind of curtain call of the French's involvement in Indochina. But this movie is shot in 65, so it's also almost for me at least, showing the end of something at the start of something new.
Mm.
Like it's such an
It's almost a warning.
Yes, I agree. And then you have, if you've seen Anderson Platoon, which is on YouTube, not sure if it still is, but that's almost like an allegory. That's almost 317 Platoon shot for real, because it's shot in black and white. It's about a newish kind of platoon who are doing the same kind of thing, just patrolling around. It's
Must have been
Schoendoerffer really
surreal for Schoendoerffer to
think
see
so.
the Americans come in and do the exact
Yeah,
same thing that the French have been
exactly.
doing.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just such a special little movie to me. I really, really, really enjoy it. And in terms of a war film, it's compact. I said it's brooding. Some of the better depictions of jungle fighting we've seen on the show ever, I think.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. I feel like if I could have my way, I'd have another massive set piece because they were so good. I would have loved them to get to that fortified village and have a final stand. I would have loved that. But this isn't Bien Dien Phu. This isn't that. So you're not getting it. But it's such a gem from the mid-60s, and just track it down, folks, please. It's a little gem. That's me this week. Just absolutely superb. We wanted to cover this one since the show's inception.
Been on the list since day one.
Yeah, it's just a cracking film. It's so good.
I agree. I really like the efforts at realism. The radio operator gets shot while he's taking a piss.
Mm-hmm.
There's mentions of the Japanese and the Viet Minh's fight with them.
There's a respect here that you don't
Mm,
sometimes get in American Nam movies for your
no.
enemy. There's a respect in here, which is, I think, lost. One of the reasons why Vietnam goes on to be lost again, because there's no respect there.
Mm, mm. I really like the scene with the Dakota that flies over, which I think the cinematographer was mentioning in that
Hmm.
interview you
Yeah,
quoted, and the bit where they, the classic, they drop the medical supplies to the Viet Minh, and
yeah.
they get some food and ammo, which is good. And
It's like the supply lift on the third lift at
yeah, it
Arnhem.
is. Yeah,
Really
yeah, yeah,
is.
yeah.
No, no. The Poles need that. No.
But I mean, as I was saying, there's lots of really interesting bits of realism. Like, there's the bit where Wilsdorf puts, I think it's a phos grenade underneath the body of Rudier, who
That's a Mills bomb.
it's not, it's a cylindrical.
Oh, is it? Okay.
He
It might be
gives
a false
Torrens
A
a
Mill, yeah.
hand grenade. Yeah,
Mm.
it might be a Mills or something like that. But
I
yeah,
checked. It was a Mills bomb.
nice. Yeah, at the end, he was like, the line, I'm scared of the animals," really,
Yeah.
says something as
That can
well.
mean
Not
what you
only
want it to mean, can't it?
exactly, it can mean he's scared of the Viet Minh, or he knows that there's stuff in that jungle as well.
Hmm.
A nice double meaning to that, I think. Um, I think it's. Do you've seen it? Do you remember the footage of the mercenaries fighting in the Congo?
Hmm. Hmm.
Some of the camera work in this has that flavor of being real
Yeah,
combat footage, doesn't it?
it does. Yeah.
The
Yeah, I
the
know
scenes
exactly
where
what you mean. Yeah.
Wilsdorf is hip firing into very close brush. It's like
Hmm.
within feet of him,
Mm.
and he's firing through it.
Yeah.
There's scenes of that in that
There's a
60s Congo footage.
1966 or 67 US Marine training film called Contact, which is
Mm,
all about what happens when you get in a firefight. It
yeah.
reminds me of that as well.
Mm.
All Marine combat cameraman self-shot black and white footage from Hue reminds me of
Yeah.
that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
it stands to that realism, and
Well, obviously both
there's
men making it were combat cameramen,
exactly,
so
exactly, and they understood the energy you get from being close,
kinetic,
handheld,
frantic.
kinetic.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. I think for me, it's one of the best combat films I've seen, especially within the Vietnam War movie genre. There's quite
Mm.
a few decent combat movies, but this one is it's got a grit to it, and it's got a great
Yeah.
depiction of small unit tactics, which we talked about earlier. It's a great companion piece to Dien Bien Phu, 92. I think that is very true. I think we both kind of came to that on our own, while watching. And I love the depiction of consequence in this. It's the inexperienced officer insisting on taking the wounded with them,
Yep.
and the inexperienced Rudier, the NCO, that sparks the ambush over the hill that
Hmm.
you don't see, but you're just gonna get the glimpses
Hmm.
of, and that's what brings them all on. And there's consequences to these things, and I think the film has a lot to say, even to the point where it, Wilsdorf gets away, but the film doesn't let him get away. The narration at the end kind of
Yeah.
ends the film by saying he's killed in 1960 in Algeria,
Yeah.
another colonial war, and
Yeah.
it's Selaguer, and the Selaguer, when they're having that last conversation, such is war, and
Hmm.
I think that hammers it home.
Yeah.
That's what Schoendoerffer is going for with this. It's such is war. It's
It's
that reality.
futile.
Mm,
It doesn't stop.
yeah,
There's a sort of finiteness to this movie.
yeah.
You know,
No, I
no
think it's a
one.
great movie. I
Yeah.
agree. You should go and see it if you haven't seen it.
I mean, in a horrible, bleak kind of way, no one makes it out because the local forces, they're either going to get found by the Viet Minh,
Yeah,
or they're going to go on to fight the Viet Cong. Like
yeah,
there's a never endingness to this, which is just
mm,
one of the reasons I love it so much is that there's so much going on in the background, whether you want to infer it or it's actually there. It's just a lovely little gem of a movie, and yeah, it agreed. It's hard to find still, but if you can get a DVD of it or find it online, it's a treat. So, rounding us out for this week, we've got the large question. It's back, but it's at the back end now. um, So it's worth the wait. So I asked, what's your favourite depiction of French forces in a war film? So Dr. Philip Blood kicks us off, and I think he might be joking. I'm not sure, but he says Ridley Scott's Napoleon. Roel van der Velde puts an image up from the Battle of Algiers. He says strong contender. We have Tom McCall who says Pars of Glory. Woody Wobble to Paul Widdage goes Joyous Noel, the Christmas movie that we still haven't done at Christmas yet, and we won't be doing it this Christmas either. Christmas 2025, folks, perhaps actually do a Christmas war film.
Maybe.
AD Bond goes Narvik.
That's a good show. I do like Narvik. That's a good film.
Yeah,
I've had that on Patreon pick, and it didn't quite win, but it's good. It's a good film.
We have Brian Williams who goes The Lost Command. James Taub goes with La Croix des Bois, Wooden Crosses. Not seen that one myself. Simon Whippet goes Bogest. Then Pete the Paint goes We Were Soldiers. One of the more.
I tell you what, that convoy ambush sequence is quite good though. I like that.
Good, but the depiction is
14-year-old Matt was like, "Oh damn."
yeah, it is a bit. I think the whole of We Were Soldiers is 14-year-old Robbie going, "This is ace," and then you rewatch and you're like,
"Yeah,
I'm not sure this happened when you're saying it happened."
It's the horns and the like. Oh, it's just
broken arrow. Yeah, it's good. I'm like, oh, it's the guy from Big Lebowski. Like,
oh my god,
it's Wow. I keep wanting him to ask for a sarsaparilla in that movie, knowing that he won't. In We Were Soldiers.
He's great in that film.
Once a Modeler goes Waterloo. Andy Brown says March or Die. And then I think we'll end on Book Khan, who says Bien Dien Phu. Epic on every scale.
What's yours?
Well, it was Bien Dien Phu. And now I think it might be 317 Platoon, but I think it's darn close. Two of those two movies that have a big space in my heart because I think they're just superb films. Not only war movies, but just in terms of films themselves, they are special.
Yeah.
What about you?
Carry On, Follow That Camel.
I knew it. I knew it.
I'm joking. No, I think kind of.
I won't have this episode tarnished by that unfunny filth.
I really liked March or Die when we covered it. I really liked that.
Fun.
And this film is just a cut above a lot of things, and it has a certain quintessentialness to it. I really, really did enjoy it. I was also going to say Legionnaire with Jean-Claude Van Damme, but I
know you love that. Yeah.
It's so bad, it's good. It's bizarre. It's such a weird film for him to be in.
I think we just love French firearms a lot as well. They
the bells, they're cool.
Je ne sais quoi.
They do have a certain something, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Right, and that was Fighting on Film this week, folks. I hope you enjoyed listening to us talk about 317 Platoon, and we'll catch you next week for more war movie reviews. Do leave us a like, a review, and a follow, whatever you're listening on, and we'll catch you next week, folks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.